And I'll put it on my glasses. Sorry. Okay.
In person. I'll just do this. Got it. Looks like we've got about 10 or so people online at the moment. Is it 10 yet? 11 yet?
Yeah.
Just on? Okay, I'll just check it. Oh, look at that. We have the perfect number of people in the room. How good is that?
Amazing.
That's good. And yeah, quite a few online as well. That's fantastic. 20 online. Very good. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to Karen from KJK Interiors for presenting to us today. It's her first time. So be kind, gentle.
Please.
To help her, moral support, we've got Julie from Polytech and also Karen from Shoji Springs, who are also the sponsors for this morning. So thank you so much for being here and being part of the seminar. I'm going to be monitoring everything online, but if there's any issues, I'll let you know. But yeah,
Okay.
we've got about 20 people online at the moment, and I think we're good to go. Thank you so much. Let's make her feel welcome.
Oh, I'm. Okay, this is the scary part where I try and get my voice projected out to all of you. So welcome. Thank you for coming this morning, everybody, and welcome to everybody online as well. Today we'll be covering costs involved, material costs, applications, and a few tips. I'll also go through the conceptual stage where an interior designer can save you money and stress during the design process. The pros and cons of material and budget, and yes, the dreaded B word is budget. So we'll be covering a lot of materials and costings for you all today as well. So if there are any questions, please lead to the end of the presentation. Be more than happy to answer your questions. I hope you receive plenty of insightful information and inspiration for your renovation or your new build project. And next slide. It's not working. So who am I? I'm Karen. I'm the studio director of KJK Interiors. It's a boutique interior design practice which I formed about 4 years ago. I've had many years experience in renovations and new builds myself alongside my husband. So I decided to quit my account manager role where I embarked on a diploma of interior design at the Queensland TAFE. I gained a lot of knowledge at this course. So what I wanted to do was actually learn how to present to you guys and portray what I know professionally, and also on, you know, where everything is accredited and it's all within building codes. I'm very passionate about all things interior and exterior, and I just love the whole design process from beginning to end. I have a growing team of 2, Annie and Dan, and Dan's actually here in the audience today, so thanks for coming. They are an integral asset to my business with a scope to offer student internships in the coming months. KJK Interiors is growing at the moment. The industry is very busy at the moment, so anyone looking to build or renovate. It's an exciting time for us all, but it's also a very busy time. And it's a good time to be within the industry. The projects KJK work on, they range from residential, commercial, hospitality, including cabinetry design, spatial planning, furniture placement, material selections, colour consults, lighting plans, and styles from Hamptons through to contemporary to Palm Springs to traditional and modernist styles. So I'll just take you through the design stages. So a lot of you here might be building or renovating. So you've probably engaged a building designer or an architect, and they will draft up all of your plans. So what happens is you'll get your proposed drawings and you'll have your layout and the look that you're after. But sometimes there can be elements or design features that you can add to those actual plans. So this is the time to engage an interior designer to benefit you the most. To save costs, it's detrimental to engage an interior designer before clients sign off on any set of drawings with your architect or building designer. Whether you engage one to go over the designs or just to provide you with some guidance and information. It will save you time and costs and variations. Also allow you to ensure the whole space works and it flows. So when presented with a set of drawings, I tend to look further than the layout. I'll look at window placement. I'll also look at, front entrances, the flow of the project. I also, externally, I look for material selections. I look for general features and characteristics of the home, because every single home is different. So like the styles I said before, there's different elements to, say, your front facade, to your back area, to internally, just the way the actual project flows. So it is also important to engage a builder during the design process for a realistic budget which will gauge the expectations you have with your project. What I'm finding is a lot of clients do come to myself and they have their plans and everything's in their materials. Sometimes are actually selected for them straight away. However, some of those materials may not, and also builders, I guess, professionalism that can help you get through that particular stage of that process. Another would be for to engage an engineer, structural engineer. So if you're renovating an existing home, it's really crucial to know any structural elements that would need to be, I guess, within the actual process of redesigning those areas. And then the other section or the other process is your material selection. So it's everything from your cladding through to your flooring, through to your tiles. It's the whole selection of your materials, because in the end, money, heartache, bless you. So what I'll just go through, I guess, a design that was presented to us. We drink. So this particular project is an existing home where they're extending and they're also raising. So there is another level below. This was presented to us from an architect, which you can see in this particular, the first image. You can see how the layout, the new extension flows really well. The existing kind of lacked a little bit of storage. Didn't have the flow of this room, and also when you looked here, the kitchen was placed on this side of the actual home where there's existing windows, so it wouldn't have allowed a lot of space for the cabinetry design Everything else seemed to be okay, but we sort of put our heads together and had a few design changes. So you can see over in the second image, I've kind of turned the kitchen around, placed the butlers in behind, added more storage. The actual main bedroom, again, I've just orientated the ensuite around and made access going through to the ensuite. And then in bed 2, we've actually reorientated the ensuite as well, so that it kind of flows a bit better. And rather than having this walk-in linen, which we've incorporated into the other area of the home, I've turned it into like a open bar area with fridges below. So that's what we've done with that one. So what happens is, more often than not, once you get another set of eyes over a set of plans, you can always manipulate that bit more. We did have the constraint of having to keep the existing walls in the actual project. So we still kind of managed to make it work for this particular home. Welcome. So what I'll do is I'll just take you through the selection stage, and I think this is where your budget plays a really big role. So it's actually educating your clients with the different materials and costings and applications and ways of saving during the whole design process. So here I've got the engineered stone versus your real stone. So with this particular image, on the first one, we've used the engineered stone, which we've used a Calcutta engineered stone to get that look to be, you know, like your normal natural marble. So the thing with engineered stone is that it's a manufactured product. It's available in many colors. So if you're wanting to place it within your home, you can keep the whole style looking cohesive. Whereas with natural stone, because it is a natural stone, all stones will differ. You'll have different variations and whatnot. It's less porous than the natural stone. It's hard wearing, it's stain resistant, and it's more cost effective than using a natural stone. In this project here, as you can see, we've used, as I said, the Calcutta look and the backbench. We've used a smart stone product where even though it is a white stone and a angle, but it's actually quite almost on par sometimes with the actual featured veined style stone. The cons with it is if you're wanting to add any curves to your project, you're kind of limited a little. You can do small curves, but if you're wanting to return the stone down and have a large apron or a large return on the actual stone, you'll have to have all separate cuts, so it will cost you more installation and manufacturing of that particular stone. You'll need a professional installer to install it, and also they're not so much UV protection for the UV. I think Caesar stone is the only one at the moment that's offering an outdoor stone to protect you against the fading in the outdoors. So just be careful when you're using it externally. Sometimes they don't warrant you for any fading. Well, actually not sometimes, all the time. Natural stone, each piece is unique. It comes in many different styles. You can get granite, Calcutta. The one that we've used in this particular project on the second image, that's a natural stone which we sourced for our client on a project just completed. So it was a very soft stone, so I had to be really careful when they were doing the installation. But as you can see, it's a beautiful product, and it does sort of elevate the space a little. It can be very strong. Most of your granites are stronger more so than your softer stone. The cons with using your natural stone, obviously, is it's more costly. So, for example, Calcutta at the moment it's about $2,100 a square metre, which is very costly. So, using your engineered stone, which could probably come in around about $600 to $700 a square metre to give you that same kind of look. It's a porous material, so of course, it can etch. So if you're using lemons or if you spill red wine and whatnot, it can actually etch into your stone. The things you could do if you are considering natural stone is having it honed every couple of years. It just brings back that top surface. So you can either have it honed or you use the polished look. Honed is a nicer finish on a natural stone. It sort of hides the marks a little bit more than if you were getting it polished. So that's one of the things you can consider when you're installing the natural stone. It's also prone to mold too. So I've not experienced it. I actually have it at home. I've had it for 7.5 years. I haven't experienced any mold, but sometimes you can because it's a natural product and it just draws the moisture in. Okay, with bench tops, so in this particular project, we had to consider the client's budget. So what we've done is we've used an engineered stone out in the kitchen area, and then in the butlers, we've incorporated a laminate just to mimic the colour and the style of the actual stone. So laminates have come a long way. You can use it residentially, commercially. It's a really good versatile product. You don't just have to use it as drawers. Sorry, you can use them as bench tops as well. So flooring selections. This is a really big one for cost-wise. It's basically 80% of your interior. So it's something that you need to, I guess, work out what you're going to do with your budget, the style, the look, and also the maintenance of it. So with engineered timber floors, they're really popular at the moment. It's mostly the engineered oak, so they all come in different profiles and sizes and planks. So you can get like your 189 wide planks, you get your 130 for your Australian species, you get your 220 for your oaks, and there's so many different suppliers out there, so it can sometimes be quite mind-boggling. But once, I guess, you find the right floor and you get the right advice and you get the right look, then you're on your way to your design. With the engineered floors, they're more resistant to moisture than normal timber floors. They are also slightly cheaper than solid timber. They look stylish. They come in a different widths, as I just spoke about. Also, it won't shrink or swell as much as real timber. So, and that's a real thing, which is actually happening to myself at home. So we have the real timber floors where the builder has actually installed it without adding any ventilation. So what's happened is over the years, it's been sweating away underneath and to the point where we're having to replace our floors. So it's detrimental that you actually get a really good builder and floor installer to make sure that these things are installed correctly. The cons, I guess, to engineered flooring, is fading, but then all timbers will fade. So UV light on an actual floor will fade wherever it is, I guess, exposed. The maintenance required, especially with children and pets. So I have a lot of clients where they have young families and they have the children. It is easy to look after the engineered floors, but you just need to be slightly a little bit careful with them, not to use like a sopping wet mop, just use something like steaming it or just going over it lightly. And that will just keep the longevity of the actual flooring. The other thing is, yes, research your supplier. So there's so many different suppliers out there, like I said before, and you have to watch what substrate they use underneath that timber, because it's just a veneer. It's not a full timber. So generally, if you get a good one, they're about 15 mil of your timber on the top of the substrate. And then you go up the higher notch is a 20 mil for another supplier, and they actually use real oak as their substrate, whereas a lot of the cheaper options, when you can get them for like $80 a square metre, generally they do have MDF as their substrate. So MDF is prone to moisture and buckling. So just keep that in mind as well if you're choosing the engineered floors. The solid timber floors, I guess they last, if installed correctly, they can last for hundreds of years. So the other thing with that is that you can sand them back at any time and re-polish them. So you have all different kind of polish finishes. You have satin, you have gloss, you have matte. So that's one of the good, I guess, pros of real timber. They're easy to clean. They provide a clean environment. They have really good acoustic values, and they come in many varieties. And as I said before, you have your Australian species, you have your spotted gum, you have your black butt, and then with your oaks, you get American oaks, European oaks. So there's heaps of different varieties in the real timber selections. The cons are they are more costly. So they can start from, say, $120 a square metre for your Australian species, and then you go up to, they can go up to about $220 a square metre. So they are almost double of what an engineered can cost you. They may cup due to moisture. So again, if there's moisture in there, you'll see that they have like a bit of a lip on them. So that's where you know you've got a moisture problem. The other thing is they scratch easily when you have pets. So if you can think it's a natural product. So of course it's like a marble. When a marble etches, timber will actually scratch and mark and dent. And then the other one is, pricing increases. So across the board, there's a shortage of timber, whether it be for flooring, for framing, for trusses, anything in the building industry which is requiring timber is in high demand, and it's in short supply. So due to COVID, there's been a lot of shortages, there's a lot of price increases. I think you'll find that if you're doing a project at the moment, you will have price increases coming to you in the next few months. So, and some of them are about 30%. So if you've got a project in the pipeline and you have a builder engaged, it's probably really good to get something locked in now. So that's what's happening. It's due to COVID, like I said, shipping and freighting, all those costs are going up. So all of your suppliers and stores and places you're getting your actual product from are having to increase their pricing. Okay, flooring selections, we're still on with the vinyl planks. So this is a really interesting one, whether you use it residentially or commercially. So it has a bit of a stigma out there as, oh, it's cheap and it's not so good. But I think what's happening with the vinyls is now the technology has like really expanded and grown, and they have actually some companies out there which I am using currently in a project where the client wanted to rip up all her tiles and put in an engineered timber floor. But the thing you have to worry about with that is that, you know, you have the cost of bringing all the tiles up. You've got your problem of your heights within the existing home. So if you're putting in an engineered floor, you've got to consider either a 15 or 20 mil height that needs to go around the entire space. So you've got your skirts to think about, you've got your door heights to think about. So we're actually having the floors, sanded back, and we're applying the vinyl planks. The ones that you can get, there's all different kinds. So you can get like your 6 mil one, you can get your there's a 3mm one, but there's so many different suppliers. It's just a matter of you doing your research, me, to help you out with it. So the vinyl planking, like I said, is either used residentially or commercially. So as you can see in the images here, I've used them in a cafe and also a hairdressing salon. And the good thing about the vinyl planking is that it can be water resistant, but not so in bathrooms. So you can't apply it into a bathroom. You still need to tile that area. If they're glued down, it's hard for you to remove. So if you drop something or cut it or whatever, you either have to rip up the actual plank, but if you get the actual the click-in system, which is, I think, not being used as much any longer. The click-in system is, again, you have to consider your skirts and you need your expansion joints. So if you were to damage one of those, you need to pick it up from the skirting, go all the way over to wherever that one is damaged, and you need to replace it that way. So that's why the vinyl planks where they glue down is a much better option for you guys to use. Concrete floors. Again, this is a lot of architects and building designers do specify concrete floors. As beautiful as they are, I love them, love them, love. However, they can be quite costly. So in the images here, the ones that we've used there is exposed and the other one is burnished. So they can all differ from different prices. So if you're doing a floor system like this, it can cost you more than doing a timber floor. So it's all in the processing. So if you're doing an exposed concrete floor, it can cost up to $220 a square metre. So if you compare that with doing an engineered floor, which is, if you do one at, say, $90 a square metre, you then add on your installation costs. So it can come up to about $150, $160 a square metre. So it still comes in cheaper than a concrete floor. The burnish isn't quite as expensive, but the thing I guess a lot of people are scared of with concrete floors is if they crack, and everyone says the same thing. I even have real estate agents say to me, a client will go through a home and see a crack in the concrete and they just don't want to have anything to do with it. So what it is, it's a porous material, so you still need to seal it over time. But concrete floors can be quite a nice, I guess, selection or I guess feature to your home. So with Queensland, it's a perfect material to use because it's so hot here. So we only get a few months of the year where it's quite cold. So you just utilize the actual space and add rugs also to add warmth. So, so if you're thinking of concrete floors, just think about the costing of it, but the results are actually quite beautiful. Okay, thermolaminate. So there's so many different aspects to cabinetry. So in the particular image here, we've done a mudroom for a client and we've used thermolaminate. So thermolaminate is an actual vinyl type material that you can use to give you a profile. So here we've used almost like a shaker style, like Hampton style profile. So it allows you to do that kind of look in your home. If you used a normal laminate, you can't actually put a profile on it. So with the actual thermolaminate, there are a few cons to it. Is moisture, I guess. So over time or presently, there are companies out there that are using the thermolaminate in kitchens because they have a new technology that they're using so that it can be more moisture resistant. So it's really just personal preference whether you prefer that look, which looks like a 2-pack, feels like a 2-pack, but it isn't a 2-pack. To use a 2-pack though, it is quite a strong product. So it's almost like car paint, it's like an enamel. And we've used it in the second image on all the lower cabinetry. We've also used it on the island bench where we've done a VJ feature. And again, we've used a 2-pack paint on that. So using a 2-pack paint on the island bench, they have a family of 4 children. So we needed something strong to be in that area. So the only sort of, I guess, cons with 2-pack is that it can chip and it can be more costly. Well, actually, it is more costly. So again, it's just personal preference too. It comes down to your budget, comes down to your style, and comes down to the application of where you'd like to place it. Again, so still keeping on the cabinetry. So in all these 3 images, we have used a laminate, but in different sort of styles and different applications. So this project we used for a developer where we needed to cut costs, but still make it look, respectable. So we've done it to the floor. So it saved him costs on actually doing a floating one. So when you're doing a floating cabinet, you have to consider structurally, they need to have the supports inside before construction. They need to know the actual heights and get that correct. And it can be a little bit more costly to do floating cabinetry. It is probably the most preferred style of vanity, I guess, in bathrooms presently, is to have it floating. But if you do need to have it to the ground, it's quite cost effective for you. Even though there is a little bit more in your material costs, it still saves when you're supporting it during construction. There's so many different colours in laminate, so you can do your timber veneer look, you can do like the matte look, matte black, which is a fingerprint proof. Again, that particular product, a lot of people like the matte black look, but it does come at a cost because it's the net. It won't your fingerprints. So it can be about 30% more than a normal laminate. When considering drawers, doors, we've got examples here of finger pulls as opposed to handles. So handles are making a really big comeback at the moment. I think it's like like if a lot of you might be on Instagram and you follow all the brands, so like Low & Co, there's a whole heap of suppliers out there where handles are coming back in, which is great. Just when you're placing handles, you just need to be wary of, when you're walking past, you don't be catching your dress or your pants or whatever. So that's the one thing I kind of has been around for a very long time. It can actually cost you, it does actually cost you a little bit more to have the finger pulls. Mirror applications, as you can see, there's so many different options. I mean, I've only put 3 up here. So you have your backlit ones, which we've incorporated in this project. This one was for the children's bathroom in a project. So we've just done a fixed mirror. They were going to put the storage behind, but there was ample in the actual vanity itself. And then the third one is the project we just recently completed, where there is drawers, doors, and we've actually got the storage at the top as well. That's a custom made actual vanity and shaving cabinet, I think they used to call them, or mirrored storage. So again, that comes as a cost as well. There are suppliers out there where you can buy them pre-made, so you can get the same look for a lot less. Tiles, okay, this is a big one when it comes to application of tiles. So here we've got a couple of examples for mitered edging. So mitered edging is actually when you get the tiler to cut the tile on a 45, which allows you to have that seamless look. It's used commonly a lot throughout most residential and commercial projects. It looks stylish, it's easy to clean. However, the few, I guess, cons is if it's not installed correctly, which you need to use like a silicone rather than a grout, it can crack It can also, I guess, you can chip them easily. You have to ensure that your tiler is experienced. So when they're doing a mitered edge, it will actually cost you, again, it'll cost you more because of the labour involved. So the second image, the tiler took an extra day to do all the mitered edges on the tiles. So it was the cost of his labour for that day on top of the cost of the tiles that they had purchased. So that's the mitered edge look. Then the tiles with trim. So in this particular project, they placed it around the mid wall. So I guess the thing with this is it costs less in installation costs. So there's no mitering edges and there's no extra labour. So it just provides a protective edge around the tile as well. You can also use it to separate different tiles. So you might just do the floor tile going to the wall and then maybe perhaps do a feature tile on the top. So you can separate that by using the actual trim. So there's no real risks with using the trim. It's really just an aesthetic thing for a lot of people. Some people like them, some people hate them. And I guess at the moment, brass is still really big within the industry. Everyone's still loving brass, so you can get brass trim. So if you want to add a bit of, I guess, bling to your design, you could incorporate some of that. So large format tiles, again, these are really big, I guess, in the design world at the moment. Everyone's loving the 12 by 600. So as you can see in this image, it's a larger format tile. It looks seamless. It has very few grit lines, which, you know, is good for cleaning and maintenance and things like that. The only thing you need to watch for is that because it is such a large tile, when they're laying it, they need to consider the fall of the tile, so going down into your drain. That's probably the only thing you'd really have to worry about. The other thing is that it will cost you more for your tiler to lay. The general size is currently 6 by 6, and they can cost you anywhere between $30 to $60 in the mid-range. You then have to consider the installation costs. So a tiler will cost you another $50 to $60 on top of that. So once you add all that up, you need to consider the actual your budget. So the large format tiles, like I said, is really, really popular. And there's also a 750 by 750. They're doing 900 by 450. So there's lots of different options that you guys can choose from. Tile features and keeping within your budget. So again, we've got a few different examples up here. So tiles, there's so many different selections out there and prices and looks. And with any feature tile, it will cost you extra in laying costs with your tiler. So here we've used a tile where we've done the herringbone look. These particular tiles we sourced for about $40 to $50 a square metre. The Spanish style in the same particular tile will cost you about $90 to $120 a square metre. So it's always good to like shop around and you know, get your look and price within your budget. The next image we've used a smaller subway, and we've laid this one in a brick style pattern. So it was an old Queenslander, so we tried to reflect within the style of the home. The one on the furthest slide is actually, we've used a few different ones here. So on the floor, we've used an acoustic tile. They are like a matte finish, I guess. So what happens with these particular tiles is that you need to watch for staining because they are quite porous. and they are quite costly as well. So something like that would have been about $200 a square metre. We've then used the same tile as this particular one, and we've laid that one in a stack bond, and we've used a grout to match. So rather than having the white grout, we've sourced another product or another grout where it will look seamless. So the things with feature tiles, particularly mosaics, is the grout. So if you're having that in your shower and you've got all those grout lines, you just need to consider, the maintenance and how you're going to be cleaning it and keeping it pristine. So tile alternative. So like I said before, the tiles can cost anywhere between $30 to $60 a square metre, then you've got your laying costs. So as an alternative, in this particular project, we use the VJ panels. So they can be used in wet areas. For the particular product, you need to get the waterproof, selection that they offer. And there's about 5 different styles. So of course, when you come back to the other side of this bathroom, you have your shower. So in the shower, we've actually tiled with a 100 by 300 white tile. So it just mimics the actual VJ around the surrounding walls. So it's a really good cost-effective way to get away from tiling the entire room. Features of curves. So curves are in. They're beautiful. They make the room, it softens the room. However, it costs a lot. So whether you're doing it on a kitchen island bench, your vanity, you're doing it on TV units, as you see here, they're all done in different materials. So the island bench is done in a corian, which is like the resin style. A lot of commercial spaces use corian, not many residential, but it allows to create this look quite easily. The bathroom there we've used in the powder room, is a concrete integrated sink. So that particular style of material will cost you between $1,200 and $1,500 a square metre. So it's not cheap, but it does look quite amazing. And then the last one, we have a laminate. And laminates are really good for curving. It's a lot more cost effective than using when you put the stone on the top, because you'll have the manufacturers of your stonemason. But there are just a few different looks in the curves. You can also incorporate curves, in your walls, into particular rooms or into bathrooms, which we're doing a lot of at the moment, which is nice. Feature cladding, again, there's so many different options out there for you guys. I just put a few on here, and I thought I'd just bring you through some of the costings on some of them, just so that you know, to achieve some of these looks, it can be quite expensive. So this particular one, we've used Porter Timber. It's a Tassie oak natural product. They come in lengths of 3 metres. They're about 42 mil wide, and they'll cost you about $16 a linear metre. So for example, that wall there could cost you over $2,000. So it's just a matter of, that you can get the look, but you need to pay the price sometimes. To keep costs down, in this particular, that was the Queenslander home. Again, we just did the VJ paneling behind, which is quite effective, and it's quite subtle. It's just adding texture to the room without adding colour. So that's how we achieved that one. The next one we utilised underneath the stairwell. So we did a bit of a wine feature, and we've used a laminate. So again, laminates, you don't have to just use on cabinetry. You can cut it on walls, and it can be quite cost effective too. Then the last image, it was a cafe we did quite a few years ago. I guess to add texture to that wall, we just used a 42 mil beading, and we've done that throughout the whole cafe and painted it like a feature colour. So that was really cost effective. So, if you're doing a Queenslander, or I guess Victorian style home, it's always a nice way to add some kind of paneling to the home at a good price. Fixture and fittings, this is a huge thing for you guys. A lot of my clients come in with like, I guess, their plans and what they're wanting, but there's so many different suppliers and quality out there. So whether you, I guess, you're wanting like the mid-range. So some homes, say a 4 or 5 bedroom home, your plumbing is coming in at least between 12 and 20,000, which is quite a lot of money. So when you engage a builder, they usually give you a PC pricing. So they'll say, okay, I've allowed, say, 10 grand for your fixture and fittings, and then you come back with your selections, and then they're like 20,000. So it happens really quickly and really fast. So I guess it all comes down to your having some professional advice or going to an actual supplier where they can help you with pricing, because this is where it can really blow out. For example, if you're doing a freestanding bath, you can do a stone bath, which can cost up to 3, 5, 6, 7 grand, or you can do an acrylic one, where it will cost you anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500. So it's just, it's knowing your product and knowing how to get the same look, but not pay the full price. The little powder room here, the basin is a freestanding basin, and it's incorporated into the same room. So it's only very small, but we've managed to get one into here, and that came in on a really good price too. So it's just a matter of picking and choosing the right product. The other is the above counter basin. So you get above counter, you get inset, you get semi-recess. Again, it's getting the right look for your home, and also the right supplier to give you that look within your budget. So just even mirrors, if you do custom mirrors, they come in double of what you can buy when you go online. So there's so many different aspects to think about with this particular selection. Lighting, this would have to be, I love lighting. I think you can add so much more to a space, but you also have to watch within your budget. I've placed a few here where we've done over the last couple of years and quite recently. This particular project had a huge big void. So the void was massive. So I just needed to fill it with, with a substantial light. So rather than just doing one, I've done the 3. So, and when you're in the space, we have centered it around so that the coffee table's underneath and you have your lounge. So it kind of fills the space quite nicely. So that's what we've done with that particular project. This one's a hairdressing salon where we've used a few different features here. So we've used the pendant over the actual table. We've incorporated the wall lights. Wall lights are so popular right now, and they're a beautiful addition to any project. So it's a more subtle light. It's a feature without being too intrusive. And like I said, it's being used a lot. So there's quite a few different options out there for you to choose from. The other is a stairwell. We've used the Lyle pendant, which I've used quite a few times. They're a custom make down in Melbourne, and it's always really nice to support, Australian designers. So, and they're not quite as expensive as what you think they are. So they're a beautiful addition to any home. The last image is showing you the surface mounted lights, which is a down light, which you can get all kinds of profiles from, say, I think it's 60 mil through to about 220. So it depends on the the height of your ceilings, what profile you place in the project, but it actually can be quite a nice addition as well, rather than just having your traditional downlights. And LED lighting is, again, it's been used for many years. It's still very popular. It's very cost effective. It can also create a really nice ambience within the space. So here we've used it in a dresser in one of the projects we've completed. And finally, exterior finishes. So I guess another thing, not only do I do interiors, but I love exteriors. I love everything architectural, anything about homes, cladding, even through to say your window placement and your choice of windows. So with exteriors, you do have to consider your cladding. With the cladding, you have to think about what paint you're going to use. Australia has very high UV rating, as you know. If you're using a darker paint, you have to be careful of fading. They'll only guarantee your paint for 5 to 7 years, a traditional builder. So if your paint is fading, then it may not be within the warranty. So it's choosing the right product for that. Also for anything that's clad on the outside of the home for a feature. So in particular, the project down the bottom where we've got the Western red cedar with all the battens below the facade. This particular product is a natural product, so it's a timber. You need to oil it or you need to put a protective stain on it. If you don't, then the timber will start to grey off. So you won't have that beautiful, rich timber look. It'll actually grey off unless you want your timbers to do that naturally. So it's always best to have the right protection on that particular product as well. The other image at the top is where you consider your pool line. So a lot of designs now are just incorporating your actual floor tile and then mitre edging them back down into your pool. So that way you don't need to have your traditional edge tile in your pool as such. And it can bring like an architectural look to the actual space. The other alternative to your natural timbers is aluminium. So there's so many companies out there that now have aluminium cladding, which looks like timber. It will cost you a little bit more. However, you won't have that maintenance of, the timbers rotting or graying off or, I guess, swelling. So they can be a really good addition to any exterior. I think that's all for that. So I guess in conclusion, it's all about the timeline for when you engage your professionals to help you with your project. So whether you engage your builder first or if you engage your building designer or your architect, you should always have a bit of a timeline, and it always helps within the whole process. So it can be quite daunting at first when you first start a project. I get a lot of clients that come to me, they're in mid-project and they're like, what do I do? So it's always good to actually come along, and even, if you have a consult, I can always talk people through their plans. So the material selection, as you can see from the presentation, there's so many different costs and applications to consider. So, and it can also save you time and money down the track. The design details of cabinetry and spatial planning, which you saw in the beginning of the slide. So spatial planning, again, when those plans are presented to me, I tend to look for everything internally and externally. So that can save you a lot in like I said, in your variations. The cost of installation and application, I've talked through all that with you guys. Sourcing suppliers or custom designs. Again, that's where you know that it's going to cost you that little bit extra to have something custom made. So whether it's cabinetry or whether it could be lighting, you can get custom lighting. So I guess I'll just thank you all for coming along and listening to myself, and thank you at home for tuning in. It's been quite daunting standing up here in front of you all. But yeah, I just hope you've gained a little bit of information or insightful tips or whatever. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
deal.
Oh, thank you.
I love colour.
Yep.
I want a coloured kitchen.
Yep.
Going back to Palm Springs is our house. We've done the floor plan ourselves.
Mhm.
My biggest thing is I keep going into tile shops and going, it's white or grey at $30 a square metre. Or is there a really good mid-range for me to get coloured tiles that suit a Palm Springs style without having to sell something on the black one?
Good question. For you at home, I've been told I need to repeat the question. So the lady in the audience is building a Palm Springs home and loves colour and would like to have a tile that is in her price budget rather than being like $120 a square metre. Answer to that is, unfortunately, there's no great deal really. Because traditionally, like a floor tile, and it's quite common, is that they are grey or they're white. You could possibly do, is it in your kitchen?
Bathrooms and then kitchen splashback.
Yeah.
The floor, if I have my way, will be a terrazzo.
Yes.
Not natural.
Yeah.
But more like a porcelain terrazzo.
Yeah.
But it's more the fact that we don't plan on having a shower screen in our main bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to tile.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm trying to find cost-effective ways to tile in colour because ideally I don't want a white tile.
Yeah. Well, I think the porcelain tile as a terrazzo will probably be your answer for that. And then you can add your colour with your wall tile.
Yeah.
And
it's the wall tiles I'm having a big problem with. To get anything colourful.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different tile suppliers, out there in Brisbane. If you can't source anything here, go online. There's places in Byron Bay that do a lot of the encaustic tiles, and there's also even Melbourne. So if you search other than Brisbane, you might be able to find other alternatives. Another thing is to ask your actual tile merchant themselves, have they got any supplies that they can suggest? Because they bring them in from everywhere.
Yeah.
So they might be able to help you out that way. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Have you had any projects where you've used epoxy flooring?
Epoxy, not as such. No, I have had people ask to have it instead of concrete, but the pricing is pretty much well up there, like with concrete. So you're getting the same look, but not the same product. The other thing too is that they're afraid that the epoxy doesn't sound like concrete coat. I guess like when you do a laminate floor, like a vinyl planking, it doesn't sound like timber. So when you're walking on it, doesn't give you the same, sort of feel or sound. And yeah, it's the epoxy are really just done in like maybe garages. So they use that more for that. Yeah.
What do you mean by thermolaminate as compared to just laminate? To draw
Okay. Oh, okay. So the question was the difference between thermolaminate and laminate. So thermolaminate is what I said before. It's like a wrap, whereas a laminate is it has a coating, but it has an MDF inner. So they're two very different products where I think it's the way it's applied to the actual substrate. And then what's happened with some of the renovations I've had to go into where they're doing a kitchen renovation, their cabinetry is a thermolaminate, and because it's a vinyl, it's peeling away from the actual substrate. So it's the process that the product's made in. So laminate is a lot more stronger than the thermolaminate. Is that okay? Yeah.
In terms of the exterior cladding, we've got chamfer boards and they're a timber product, and I'm sort of starting to think ahead and go, I don't know whether they're going to be an issue to source when we're actually installing them. So I'm considering the cladding option as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know sort of approximate pricing of different cladding options at all?
Well, that's a question, I guess, for your builder. So cladding can differ. So if you're using an Axon, which is your Hardy's product, it is very widely used. So it's not as expensive of what you think it is. So chamfer board, yeah, is quite dated. What year is your home?
Our house is 1968,
Yeah.
so it's actually matching our house.
Yes.
So it was always, we're always trying to match in with what we've got already.
Mhm.
But you know, just maybe that could be a way that we can reduce the cost of our overall
Yeah.
project, is to use some cladding in strategic areas as
Yeah.
well.
And you could also think about, you know, laying the cladding, you know, in a different direction to the existing. So then, you know, you're not trying to match it in exactly. So rather than having it run horizontally, you could do it vertically, maybe section it off slightly.
Well, the challenge I think we have with the cladding is like the ones out here on display, they're a weatherboard
Yeah.
size, whereas chamfer boards are actually a bit smaller.
Smaller.
So it would be, you would see this mishmash.
Yeah. The other alternative is you could see if you could get any reclaimed timber.
Yes.
Just go around to the timber yards and perhaps even Google to see if anyone does supply that particular style cladding.
Yeah, there's definitely some out
Yeah.
there, but yeah, it's just sort of like our builders sort of think second-hand product can be harder to work with.
Yep.
As well. So,
Yeah, and I think that might be your answer if you wanted to match.
yes.
Okay.
I'm putting a two-pack, I did my daughter's bedroom, we did two-pack wardrobe doors 28 years ago. And they all sort of crazed and cracked. Has that improved these days? Is it a better product now? Does it craze and crack still?
Well, being, what is it, 28 years old?
Yeah.
22, yeah. Like I did say, it's like a paint, so over time it can crack. So the question is about two-pack paint on wardrobe doors, which are cracking after 28 years. If you're replacing those doors, I'd be more inclined to use either a laminate or the thermo laminate. The reason being is two-pack is quite costly, and I'm not doing any two-pack wardrobe doors at all. There's one.
I'm trying to work out what I want to do in my kitchen because we're renovating a home.
Yeah.
This home that has those doors in.
Mhm.
We're actually selling that house, but yeah, I was just wondering about the two-pack if it's improved.
It has improved, yeah. So in kitchens, it's great. I love it in kitchens because you can have all the different profiles, colours, finishes. The problem is if you're using it in a wardrobe, you want to bring those costs in slightly. So you can get that look with a laminate or the, yeah.
Venetian plaster.
Ooh,
You've done it. In
yeah, lots, and I
your
haven't got it in my
project.
presentation.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Sorry.
can you justify the cost?
Okay.
The look that you get.
Okay, the question is about Venetian plaster. It is big out there, and it is, I know it's all over Instagram, it's in a lot of projects, and it is costly. So it can cost about $220 to $260 a square metre to have it installed. So I've used it in a couple of projects, one being in a, down the Gold Coast, it was a skin specialist salon, and we've used it on a wall, and the wall would be, you know, about 3 metres long, and it cost $3,500. It is costly, it is beautiful. To say, would I justify it? Look, if it's a product that I think is going to be there for a long time, it's going to look beautiful. So it depends on what application you use it for or where you place it, and your budget, of course. So there's two different finishes. So you can get one of the renders is the one that we used in this particular project where it is textured. So when you look along it, it's actually quite textured and it looks really beautiful. It looks quite stunning. The other one is a, it's more like a paint. So it doesn't have the texture at all, but you'll get the swirl effects. If you want an alternative to a Venetian plaster, I know some of the paint suppliers like Porter's Paints, Resine Paints, they all offer different finishes in their products. It's just the way that they apply it to the actual surface. So if you go down to Porter's, which is down in the valley here, they've got all examples of the different styles and textures that you can achieve with their paints. But the Venetian plaster is also, it's very big now on kitchen island benches. So that allows you to do any curves without having that huge cost of, manufacturing the marble and the stonemason, all that sort of thing. And then the other thing is a project we've done where the whole entire bathroom is Venetian plaster. So there's no grout lines. There's nothing. It's just, yeah, it's going to cost you a mitt. It's going to look beautiful, but it's going to be, yeah.
And my son's a tiler, but he's trying to talk me into Venetian plaster. So
Like if the costs come down, I would have it too, because it is such a beautiful look. It's easy to look after. It would last you a long time, and you won't have the problem of leaks with grout and stuff like that. So yeah, if you can do it and you can afford it, can I come? Come have a look. It can, like I said before, it can offer there's two different applications. So the one that we're talking about with bathrooms, to do that can be anywhere between 220 and 260 a square metre. The other application I was talking about, which is more for your walls and more for feature walls, can cost around about $80 a square metre, and that's installed.
So when we put Venetian plaster in the bathroom, is it waterproof?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. So if you do it's about 260, like I said. If you do that floors and walls, it's water resistant. It's a beautiful product. It's just costly. Yeah.
If you've got asbestos in living bedroom areas, ceilings, and can't remove it all, do you have any suggestions how to take away drawings or?
I wouldn't touch any of it, to tell you the truth. Anything with asbestos, the questions asked about asbestos inside the home and removal or changing of any walls. You need to get a professional in for that, because asbestos, as you know, is poisonous material. It's hazardous. You'll need to get professionals in to come in and actually remove that. Yeah, unfortunately. So,
Like skin plaster, like on the drawings?
you would have to ask your builder. I would hate to say yes. Like if you're skimming and maybe if you skim and you scratch it and some of the particles in the air, it's natural material that should be, just taken away altogether. So you'd need to speak to a builder, I think. Sorry.
Just with the concrete floors, there's also the product Geostar.
Yeah.
So in looking at it, a lot of the suppliers will just kind of sell you it. We still have to find a contractor to lay it.
That's right.
Polish it and everything like that. Now, in regards, have you done a lot of projects with Geostar?
I haven't used Geostone.
So Geostone is just as Wholesome supplies Geostone. So Wholesome is the supplier. Geostone is the decorative range. That's why it's called Geostone. But yeah, you still have to have a computer that does that for you. Yes. But I went recently to a number of the Master Builders Awards houses, and it's all about the concrete floors. It's very, very popular. You just have to get a really good computer to do that. There are so many companies that just pride themselves in they can lay your floor for you and you will not have a crack. So when you go to, I can give you a phone number for the state manager for Wholesome Geostone, and they can recommend. So you have to just get that right. The concrete.
Yeah, so that I think that's the thing, because like Geostone is like their product, but there are
Awesome.
and a lot of the computers just won't say, I'm not gonna lie, to concrete might have a crack.
I think they have to cover themselves. They just don't know.
The other thing I just want to say is that, in regards to having that concrete, because it's kind of an inside-outside area.
Yeah.
The work, so basically, that's where the next going to be.
Yeah.
In regards to wear and tear
know, because I know geosynth is what. It's quite expensive, you have to say tiles. But the whole thing is still on ground, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think like Karen was showing one of them, so you get the furnished concrete as well, which is more of the, I think it's just a plain concrete, really.
Yeah,
And it's
so it's
actually
just
quite
yeah,
good,
polished,
and it's a little cheaper than having the
the exposed.
Yeah, all the polished concrete and having it with all the pebbles in it. It's a little bit cheaper. It's more of a plain basic range. And what they then do is you can have one slab laid on the inside, they polish it, and on the outside they hone it. So it's a rougher on the outside. So it's,
But that would still absorb and stone or.
well, they see that.
Yeah, they're a
So
seal.
there's different types of sealing as well that can be done, and that will help with in staining. But you definitely have to get the right concrete to do it, because as I said, once you just apply the product, then you have to get the right height. So I'm happy to give you David some details, and just say that this is, I need to get it right, and we need a good concrete. It's like, you know, for instance, you can have a concrete bench top, for instance. Most concrete won't do that, but there are some of them that specialize in that. So you're not going to get your normal driveway guy to come and do your. You're going to get someone that can actually do it, because it has to be done on the actual thing.
But it's also very hard to go and see a display of geostone. You see the little pieces in here.
Yeah.
And every time I ask a concreter, they said, oh yeah, but Holston isn't the only place that sell it. There's all these other places. And I said, can I see it?
But that's the problem with, I guess, with a lot of suppliers, is that is for them to be able to actually exhibit what the whole thing looks like. It's like when you get a laminate, you get a sample that big. Or if you get a stone, you get a sample that big. So, you know, it's a matter of actually, you know, going to an actual project and viewing it.
In the name of some shopping centre that's that. Every time I go to see a shopping centre with it in, all the worn passageways, because I was looking at the one that has it actually looks like terrazzo.
Yeah.
In the geostone one, it was a lighter one.
Yeah.
And it looked like terrazzo. That's what took my eye in the first place.
Thanks for coming, guys. Yeah, I think that's okay. That would answer your question. Like if you're saying that there's if it's marking or if it's fading or whatever, there's your answer to, like, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. 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 So that's right. So I think it's more so, I guess it's the amount of traffic, like you're saying, because it's a commercial space. Yeah. But if you did the home concrete outside of the geostone, you'll probably find that would suit your project as well. You just got to seal them. Yeah. Yeah.
A few questions online.
Uh-huh.
The first one is.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye, everyone. I know it's going. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Structural insulated panels for walls. Any advice on applying interior design over the top? Is there challenges with planning or anything else?
Oh, so I was saying goodbye to everyone. What was the beginning?
Structural insulated panels for walls. Any advice on applying interior design over the top?
Structural
insulated panels.
Insulated.
Sips.
Pardon?
Sips.
Sips.
I don't know what a sip is.
No.
Sip the wine, but
I don't understand the question. Sorry, they've got a.
Essentially just two pieces of plywood sandwich with polystyrene in the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For insulate. Oh, insulation. Oh, okay.
structural insulated panels.
Oh, okay. Well, that obviously depends. Where is it in a residential home? Like, is it there for acoustic values? Is it decorative? I'm not sure.
If it's structural, it's going to be a whole wall.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, but there wouldn't be any, I mean, you could just, the question is, any advice on applying interior design over the top one?
Yeah, just do some paneling, thank you. Yes,
So just a wall?
yeah, looks like that, sure. Oh, yeah, yeah, so yeah, just any kind of cladding will go over that. It's like you were saying, VJ is the most cost-effective way of putting in a feature, and they have all different profiles. It doesn't have to be your traditional 100 mil. They've got the easy groove one, they've got the 200 wide. So there's quite a few different profiles that you can use.
I've also got another question. This is a loaded one. How do you go about choosing colors?
How do you go about choosing colours?
Start with a good interior designer.
Oh dear. I guess it depends on your project. So what style you're going for, whether you have a colour preference like yourself, like Palm Springs. We're doing one at the moment, which is Palm Springs. So we're incorporating a lot of green and we're doing terrazzos, and you know, it's so exciting to do. If you're doing a traditional style home, you think about keeping it timeless. There's so many different ways of thinking about colour. It just depends on the actual project.
I suppose like do your research. Like if you're going to Hampton, go and research on house.
Yes.
That's such a great resource. Go look at house.
Yes.
So it comes up with 5 million little images of that style. So
That's right. Yeah. Or Pinterest is a really good one. Pinterest is really good. I find it's a little bit more up to date than house.
Okay.
It's more, it has a lot more. You can actually hone in on Australian design more so than, you know, in America. So yeah, you could try Pinterest as well.
I find they don't say what product they use.
A lot of people like keeping secrets.
Yeah, so you don't know what,
Yeah.
whether
I mean, like
used.
sometimes when I tag an Instagram, I'll put the suppliers, and sometimes I won't. So it just depends, because it's what information we want to give out as designers ourselves.
So I've got 3 zones. One is MPC, the other end is a bathroom full tile. I'm having a transition zone of a fade in of tiles. Is there a way to do flush interface between the fading in of tiles and MPCs?
Whereabouts is it, in the wet area itself, or is it?
It's a powder room transitioning to the full wet area. Because the MPC, if I were to do the MPC first and the tile, it won't be flush. So I'm trying to do flush, but the concreter doesn't want to do after the tiles is in. I mean, as in the polisher guys doesn't want to do it after the tiles in, but the tiles can't do it after.
Yeah.
It's like, who goes in first kind of question. And both of them doesn't want to go in front of us.
So you've got existing tiles there that are fading?
No, so this is a new build.
Yes.
MPC in the hallway coming into the wet area, but in the transition zone where the fading of tiles is not clear cut straight. So I'm trying to do dotted tiles going in. But
Tiles, did you say?
tiles, yes.
Yeah.
So the tiles obviously have a thickness, but the MPC can't ride it across into the tile zone because it's a fading effect.
So your MPC, are you talking about the ceiling, or are you talking about an actual
Concrete.
floor? Because the only other thing I think of is like you probably drop the ceiling height, but it's concrete, right?
Yes. Because another thing is, I said, right on, let's do a drop in from the starting of the transition zone, a drop down, and we lay the tiles across, and then whatever thickness we need to achieve, we pour another thin layer of concrete. Is there any material or any product that will do 3 mil or 4 mil kind of thing? Just to
You
get
need
the
to
smooth
separate
finish.
it, to separate it.
Just to get them flush, because
Flush.
I cannot get the MPC and the tiles to flush.
What about people? Like concrete? Are you wanting that concrete look on the ceiling?
No, on the floor, it's on the floor.
So you're talking about the floor or the ceiling?
Floor.
Oh my God, you lost it. Okay, the floor, you can use a trim.
So the trim can go any shape, is there any shape limitation in terms of I can go curvature also, curvature.
Well, if you're using a trim, it's like a metal material, so you would have to have the costs of actually, I guess, getting a curve or bend or something.
Yep.
Um,
So that's achievable, that's a trim. What
I
material?
don't know if it's achievable because I've only ever used trim in a straight line. I haven't curved it, haven't bent them. So like in one of the slides, if you have the trim going along with the wall, you actually have to miter cut the edge of it. So you can return it back, but I guess it's a matter of like when they bend it, if it's maybe if it's brass, I don't know, it could chip or it could, you know.
It just means a lot of labor to get that
Yeah.
shape.
Unless you use some kind of a resin product.
Yeah, which is what I was thinking, because I did ask the FPC guys, I said, right, well, let's ignore that.
Because what's the fall?
The fall is whatever is required for the wet area.
Yeah, so what's the fall? How high, how low?
I think it's about 10 mil or something.
Yeah, so then you could use a trim, but you need to, are you talking about shaping
Yeah, trying to shape that transition zone so that the house is not a straight cut, NPC and house kind of thing, you know, it's just trying to go slowly into a full house effect.
it? Okay. Well, like I said, you could either use a trim or you could use like a resin product, so resin where you'd be able to like manipulate it. So I'm just trying to visualize what it is that you're doing.
Because I was just asking them as well, like, if I just use that area, that transition zone, just use epoxy to mimic that NPC finish. They were like, no, we don't do epoxy laying on wet areas because it will then flow if it gets wet. Which I'm right on. What options do I have to actually get that flush between NPC and the house?
So when you're coming out that red area, you want to come out, like you want it to be seamless, you want it to be
Yeah, I want
flush.
it to be flush, but because the towel is not a straight line cut flush on the
But
lines,
generally you need the tile to be at a higher, needs to be higher.
towels need to be cut.
Well, the actual floor,
Yeah, because I've specified to have the set down so that it's flush entry.
gotcha.
Yep.
Well, the only thing that I can think of for your particular project would be trim without seeing what you're doing. That's all I, yeah, because I'm thinking, like if you were to use a trim and you need to speak to maybe even a fabricator, like where they could do a custom.
Right on.
That might be, speak to a fabricator.
Would you ever recommend putting a feature behind the TV? Like,
Yeah, I do it
some
all the
feature
time.
wall from floor to ceiling, like
Mhm.
sort of in our lounge room space and the hallway, we're doing the VJ paneling.
Yeah.
But I'm contemplating something behind the TV, but I'm a little bit lost of
Thanks
what
for
would
coming
work
in.
with that kind of combination of what we could put there that, because I've heard that if you put a darker color behind the TV, it makes it less noticeable.
Yeah, and then the other thing you can do is you can actually, when you're doing that feature, you can actually recess it back. And recess your television back into it, so then it disappears again. So you just bring your wall forward slightly, or your feature forward, and then recess back, and then the TV's flush.
That would look good. Yeah, it's a little bit hard. What was that?
I said that's $100. Yeah, so
NPC stand for? Can you just talk about
pardon?
that? What does NPC stand for?
No idea.
Oh, we know, we're just trying to.
Thanks, ladies. Have a good day.
Quite expensive to achieve, the fourth timber going
Yeah,
around the curve and
Well,
the
you can
kitchen
do
bench.
it, you can do it quite easily. Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's quite easy now because if you get it when you're down, thank you. It's just actual material. And then when the builder or whoever's installing it, because they're all separate pieces, it'll cost you more.
It'd be cheaper
So
to
either
get
glue it
to
or no,
curve a laminate. It'd be cheaper to get a timber laminate and curve that around. Because
it's a natural product as well, you've got to think about if you're putting it on the wall. If you're doing it to round, vacuuming and stuff like that. And they were thinking about that to tingle all the time. Considering they were talking about it, they laid it and then they had to, that would help. So you're curving a wall?
Well, I'd like the ends of the kitchen bench island
that's
to
it.
be curved. I
So they would
also,
just use a substrate and then they'll put that around the outside. We use a little tonic on the multi-watt.
and the other thing I was thinking of was we've got a lift that goes up, you know, from the ground floor to the next floor to cover the whole lift shaft. Water timber, that sounds expensive. Be cheaper to paint it.
Yeah, they have an MDF now so that you can use that paint. If you want that to so possibly with the lift, you might be better off using like a laminate or
You can get it ridged though, can you, like that?
They do it, yeah. It's still quite expensive too. So we're all that much. It'll just be probably last a bit longer. Not last, but be more durable than.
I wonder what this product is.
It's like an acoustic panel.
Ah,
So they're like that absorbs all the.
We've got 3 kids, 3 boys, and they're very noisy.
Well, then you need carpet.
That's a separate
Well, we
house.
kind of have to,
Yeah,
We're kind of restrained that we have to put timber floors in, because that's what we've already got. But yeah, maybe something like that could work behind the TV to absorb some noise.
Insulate your walls.
Doesn't that work?
Yes,
But
they
if you do any other paint on those walls, that will help absorb it as well.
Yeah.
And rugs, use rugs.
They slip on rugs, so I, at
They'll
the
put it under
moment,
furniture, so,
yeah.
and get a proper rug, not one that they can. So you get the ones that underneath, you've got the.
Or you can just buy rolls of that lining and put underneath, like cut it to size.
I've always just, we've got really energetic boys, so I've always just avoided rugs because it's a true hazard, so. Yeah, but I was curious what.
Yes.
I've never seen that.
Well, thanks, guys.
I asked one very last question. Have you had any experience with the micro cement X bond in the bathroom?
No. Not today. Are you going to use it?
I think
You don't know too much.
he's a tradesman, he knows football.
Yeah.
I'm considering it as an alternative to tiles because we plan on just having a recessed shower head in the main bathroom, so no shower screens. So I need something
Yeah.
that's on a very large scale. Easy to clean would be nice.
That's a problem. Things that are on trend, easy to clean, all that sort of thing, cost you more.
Yeah.
It's like a diet. If you're gonna eat, healthy food, it's gonna cost you more. If you're gonna think that's better for you, it costs you more.
Yeah, and we're trying to build a very standard house in the rain bar. I'm trying to push the limits of a relatively cheap builder to get what I want. So I think this is kind of do some things on late rates. I'm trying to push it so far as I
We should do that. Because the cost is.
Okay,
Yeah.
project cards, although I follow you on Instagram.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
I need to do what everyone's telling me to do, so there you go.
There you go.
Because you just do colour selection?
No, I do cabinetry design.
No, but I've got, because
Oh,
I'm
do
building,
I just?
yeah. I'm building at Paradise Point.
Oh, yeah.
and, Yeah, I know what colours I want, but I just want to make sure it all goes.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, and so you were in your element.
Oh,
No,
really?
you got a lot warmer as it went on, and
okay.
you found your feet, and then when you answered the questions, that's when you were really in your element. So
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, it was great.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, I hate
But
starting.
you do work down the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I do Brisbane, Gold Coast.
So for
Sydney.
something like that, would you meet?
Yeah, you can
something
either
like
come
that,
to me or I come to you.
Yeah, I
I
will
do.
do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Drive safe, Dan. Is it? Oh, bye everyone.
Oh, we're doing
Right.
You like the presentation to simplify, it's like it's off the script.
Yeah.
I leave the thing, but it's still
How do I turn this all off? Oh, good girl. Oh.
And then like.
And then I want to.
The red link button.
Bye. See if I can.
Sorry. Leave and then like meeting.